Hello, my amazing tarot friends. It's Justin Michael. Welcome back to my channel, and of course, welcome if this is your first time visiting. I hope you're all doing well. I hope you had a nice Christmas. I know it's been a challenge because of COVID and everything. I feel like everybody's sort of feeling a lot of stress right now because being confined the way we have been over the better part of a year is not natural for us. So I've been noticing there's a lot of sort of anxiety and even toxicity out there that, and myself included in this, like I'm definitely a much more miserable person than I have been in a long time. I'm also a lot more anxious. And so I wanted to talk to you today about the upcoming year, what I have planned for my channel. I'm calling it my death year, 2021, which is different from a lot of what is going around, which is called the depth year. And I initially said that was something I was interested in doing. But I've thought about it, and I'm the type of person that sometimes, needs to experience things before I understand them and so forth. So, well, what do I mean by a death year? So my card for 2021 is the death card. My card for this year was the Hangman. It was actually perfect. It taught me a lot about myself, and I identify with the Hangman in general anyway. So the way you come up with your year card is the way I do it is it's explained in the book, I believe, Tarot Constellations, which is a workbook by Mary Greer. But the book I'm reading about it now is the same author, Mary Greer, but it's called Who Are You in the Tarot? And this is currently available. Tarot Constellations is not. And this is just like sort of an updated version of Tarot Constellations, and it's really been, so far I've been reading it and it's really great. So the way you calculate your year card is that you will add your month and your day. So for me it's February 24th, so it's 2 plus 24 plus the current year. And that gives you your year card. And for me, this year in 2020 was the Hangman. And then after New Year's, my card will be the death card. And it makes perfect sense with everything that's been going on in my life. And I'm looking forward to it because I think it's actually a very good thing because it's a transformative year. And I definitely understand what it's all about, at least, in theory. I think I have it sort of worked out. This is a great book, though. She basically goes into, and I recommend you get it because some of the things I'm going to tell you about are probably going to be a little hard for you to understand. You'll probably have to say it, because it has to deal with numbers. But she talks about, everyone has, first of all, constellations. We have constellations in the sky. The stars make up constellations. And they're just random clusters of stars. And a lot of the stars are not even close to each other. Some of them are millions and millions of miles away from each other. And they just appear to be a constellation in the sky. They're not actually like a cluster of stars. But they've become, in a sense, a part of our own personal myth. We've projected our mythology and our stories and our beliefs onto the constellations, and that's sort of what astrology is, and in the same way, tarot, Mary Greer argues, also has constellations, and I know it had to do with another author, I can't remember at the moment, but came up with the idea for tarot constellations, and then Mary Greer wrote a book on it. And so she says there are 9 tarot constellations. The first one is the Magician, and that's actually what my constellation is. And so it's the Magician, it is the Wheel of Fortune, and the Sun. The way you do that is you add up your birth date, and then you add that to your year, your date of year. So for me, February 24 would be 2 plus 24 plus 1982, and then you reduce that. And your first number that you get, if it's less than 22, is your personality number. And for me, that is the Wheel of Fortune. And then the second number, you reduce that even further, and that becomes your soul number. So for personality number is 10. The soul number, because it's 10, it reduces to 1, so it's the Magician. And then my shadow aspect, or my teacher card, is actually the Sun, because 9 plus 1 is 10. So it's like done in a reverse way. But each constellation has sort of specific purpose, you know what I mean? And this is like, has to do with will and drive, the constellation of will and something like that. And I'm still reading the book and learning about it. I'm definitely not an expert on it, but that also corresponds with, the aces, for instance. And then, the second constellation, constellation 2, is another set of cards, and that corresponds with the 2s, right? I think the 2s and... So maybe mine are 1s and 10s, aces and 10s, and then 2s are just the 2s. Something like that. But it's been very interesting, and this is all new to me. The tarot constellations idea is new to me, but the year card isn't. I did my year card for last year, and it was the Hangman. And I got a lot out of that because I felt like it was the perfect card for me. The Hangman is always a perfect card for me because it's a card that's been sort of appearing to me and revealing itself in many ways since I've been into tarot. And I identify, in a lot of ways, the Hangman is my hero. But there's a different lesson associated with it as your year card. And so I just want to read to you briefly what Mary Greer has here. So I'm not going to read the whole thing, just a little bit. But in a Hangman year, you will have to release things from your past. Sometimes when this involves the loss of someone you are attached to, it feels like a betrayal. The painful or wounding experiences of such a year, however, serve the purpose of inward spiritual growth. Relax and let go. By releasing old patterns and surrendering fixed ideas, new ones can be formed in accord with commitments and so forth. So that's sort of what the Hangman year was for me, and I'm still in the Hangman year. I have not hit the death year yet, and I may not hit that. Hopefully, the transformation part of it, I will. Hopefully, I'll get there, and I will experience. But I do feel it's a very transformative year for me. So that's why I'm calling it a death year, because for one, a lot of other people are talking about depth year and not buying decks and looking inward. Although not everybody that has talked about the depth year has said they were going to stop buying books or tarot decks and so forth. But for me, I was already there anyway before I even heard anybody talking about it, because during the quarantine I bought a whole lot of decks. More decks than I probably should have, and I don't want to say I got myself in trouble, but, I did buy a lot of decks, and I haven't even really worked with any of them yet. So I said I wanted to do like an inward kind of thing and really learn. And then when I heard other people talking about depth year, I was like, yeah, that's perfectly for me. But having thought about it after a while, I was like, I jumped the gun with it a little bit because I don't think that's actually what my goal, my main focus is going to be in this next year. I think it's more in line with death year because of the death card. And so I wanted to talk to you just a little bit. And of course, I'm going to show you a couple of decks. I'm going to show you my top 5 decks and maybe a few others. And I hope this isn't too long of a video, but I am going to show you some decks. So if you want to skip this, you can always fast forward. So I want to talk to you about my goals. First off, this has been a real challenge for me doing YouTube in general. I've always been the type of person that I've always had stage fright. Number one, I was a musician in high school, and I was always involved in theater. I was always on the stage, but I had stage fright. But I was always in a group of other people. So if I had a solo, for instance, I had to play a solo on the horn, I would get really so nauseous I sometimes would throw up, before a show. And that kind of never goes away, that kind of stage fright. But when you're making YouTube videos, you're by yourself and you're talking and you're putting yourself out there for the trolls, for people that are jealous and might not like what you're doing, whatever it is, you're exposing yourself to a lot of criticisms. And if you can't handle the criticisms, YouTube or making videos or putting yourself out there is just not something you should do. So I decided that when I started making YouTube videos that I would have to be okay with this. But the problem for me is that I'm a Pisces. that's the main issue, is that I am very affected by other people's energy. And I very much rely on other people's sort of approval of me, and that's not a good thing usually. It's not always a bad thing either, because I'm very sensitive. I'm usually empathetic, and there are some good things, but there are some downsides with it. And I feel like the death card, or the hangman card for me, was sort of shattering that, not really worrying about what other people think, and dealing with criticism. And that's easier said than done. It's like when I did my video, which was the Robert M. Place interview, which I felt pretty good about. You know what I mean? After I did it, and someone left a comment on there about how I was out of my depth. And at first, when I read that, I was like, I didn't really care too much about it, because it was just like, But then it kind of got inside my head, and I was like, well, it made me angrier more than that. I was like, do people expect me to be, like an expert in tarot? Because that's not, just because I have a YouTube channel doesn't mean I'm an expert in tarot. And secondly, it's Robert M. Place, like, who's not going to be out of their depth with that guy? Like, have you read his book? I mean, it's insane. He is an extremely intelligent human being. He's an artist. He's been at this for like 50 years. I'm not even 40 yet. I've been only in the tarot for a few years. So I was just so frustrated by that. I was like, did they expect me to be a friggin' expert? Like, I'm talking to this guy to learn from him. You know what I mean? And I enjoyed how it went. But that comment sent me it really affected me negatively. And I got paranoid, and I was like, do I have any business doing this? Like, should I even be interviewing anybody? Like, am I out of my league here? Like, am I even worthy of interviewing somebody like that? And it really screwed with my head. But I had some really supportive people around me. I'm not going to name them, but they know who they are, who told me not to worry so much about that, or like somebody who was jealous or whatever. But like, just because I make a video about someone, or I'm doing an interview, interviewing somebody like Rachel Pollack, of course I'm out of my depth. That's the whole point, isn't it? Like, isn't that the whole point? But anyway, see, I'm doing it now. I'm like defending. But the whole point is that I have to like sort of let that part of me die. I have to like complete, and it's really painful. It's a painful experience doing this, and exposing yourself to some criticisms, because I've always been the type of person to speak my mind. I'll tell you off. If I don't like you, I will tell you off, and so on and so forth. But so my goal for the end of this year and into next year is to not care what people think. So of course that's more personal, but it is going to affect the way I make videos. And so that really just means, like, I'm not going to give a shit really if people like my videos or not, And it's something I've been building up to, but now I just finally feel a little bit free of it. So I'm going to talk about whatever I want to talk about, whatever I feel the need to talk about. And of course, you can never not care what people think completely. You can't violate social norms and so forth, because you become a sociopath in that regard, and you won't be liked by anybody. But in the same sense, you have to have a little confidence in yourself. And like I said, being a Pisces, I'm very concerned about how people view me and how people think about me. And even though I know that that's unwise in a lot of respects, it's just something that I've always struggled with. But I'm working my way to shattering it. And people are either going to love me or like me, or they're not. And I can't change if people like me or not. It's just I am who I am. You know what I mean? And all I could do is, when I come on here, is be myself, and that's what I'm planning to do. So death year for me is about transformations. I'm going to focus on content that is more meaningful for me. That I'm going to get a little more, hopefully more comfortable with making these videos, and I definitely have gotten more comfortable. But more importantly, I'm not going to be overly critical of myself, or overanalyze things, and I don't think I'm alone in that. I think a lot of content creators probably stress about their content and so forth, but I'm done with it. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm also not going to care about what other people think about me in my life too, because I've done the same thing in my life, with relatives or whatever, where there have been people that, have, it's like if people can sense if you're the type of person that can be easily affected by their words. And that sort of emboldens the type of people that, like, everybody expresses aggression. First of all, we're all aggressive creatures. You know what I mean? We're humans and we all have aggressive tendencies. But people that express their aggression verbally feel emboldened when they see that they can affect you with their words. And you can't do that. You can't let people do that to you. And so, there are people that like to inflict pain on people. You know what I mean? Sadistic, or bullying has many different forms. Bullies don't always look like bullies, and we're all capable of being bullies. We all have a shadow, and we all have capable of having our balls twisted one day and then really saying something very, very hurtful to other people. So for me, that's like something I'm going to work on, is like, I'm going to do my best to be a good person and be a good friend or be a good relative or a son or whatever. But I'm not going to worry if people don't like me. Particularly family members that might have problems with my sexuality or something like that. Because that's another thing, it's like, I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but I've had some serious issues with the way people view me, and I think I've went out of my way to sort of please them and try and get them to like me, because I do not like when people don't like me. It's just a Pisces thing. But that part of me is definitely dying. It's something that I'm overcoming, and not everybody's going to like you, and that's the bottom line. So I'm sorry if I'm rambling here, but this is just it's a bit important, so I wanted to bring it up. So I think the way it affects my content is that hopefully it'll be a little more candid and just not focus on clicks or views or if people like my content or not. I'm just going to make content, and if people like it, they like it. If not, they don't. The second part about the death year thing is the whole depth year thing, like not buying decks for me. It's a little bit risky because people will get offended by that, and they will. They shouldn't be offended by it because there's nothing to do with them. But sometimes people might take that as like condescension, like you're being condescending. But for me, it's not, And I don't even know if not buying decks or buying a certain amount of decks is even important for me at this point. I don't think it is. I think more or less my real goal for this year is shattering those negative tendencies that I have, things of that nature. So that's all I wanted to tell you, and I'm going to focus mostly in my content going forward. I'm going to make videos that are a little more meaningful, are a little more genuine, and I'm going to continue my series, my Titans of Tarot series, and I'm actually I know Mary Greer agreed to meet with me sometime after mid-January, so she's going to be on there, and I got some other people lined up for it, so it's very exciting for me, and I think that that's going to be my main focus. I'm not going to be doing so many lives. Like, not that I did a lot of lives, but I just don't think that lives really are important for me to do at this point. I may change and do, and I'm not saying I won't do any lives, but I just, like, there was a time where I thought I might do some lives, or even like a weekly live or a bi-weekly live, but it's not necessary for me. So, like, I'm going to focus on my own journey and do what's important to me. And I want to get back into what got me into tarot in the first place, which is my own spiritual journey and development. and I can't worry about too much what's going on. And that doesn't mean I don't want to go on anybody else's channel or whatever, but it's just not my main focus. I will do some lives. I have some planned already anyway, a few, but just giving you a little heads up that I'm not going to be doing so many lives. So that's it, guys. I'm wishing everybody a happy New Year. I'm going to show you some decks now, and I'm sorry for the long kind of, lecture or whatever the hell I'm doing today, but I thought that would be, I would at least tell you some goals. Another goal, briefly, is that I'm going to do a little more journaling. I'm going to pay attention to my dreams, and I'm going to get into more about Carl Jung again, because that's really what got me into tarot in the first place. I've been reading a lot about Jung. I did Mary Greer's her workshop on Carl Jung, and that was brilliant. It was great, so I was happy about that. And I have a nice journal here, which I picked up, which I'm going to be doing a lot of journaling, so I'm going to focus on those things as well. So my top, what is it? I don't know. I can't name top fives. I'm not going to pick favorites. I'm just going to name some decks that I really loved. It's going to be about 5 or 6 or 7 of them. And I'm going to do this very quickly. So my first, probably, I'm going to do this one first. So maybe I am picking probably the best. I'll pick my top one of 2020, and I think it was the Medieval Europe Tarot. I think it was so beautiful and so well done, but the rest of them are kind of just random tarot decks that I liked. And it comes in this really nice box. Deluxe Cards is the company. Dustin from Modern Metaphysicae is the one who told me about this deck. Well, he mentioned it on one of his lives, and I was like, totally into it. I mean, first off, it's a huge piece of tarot deck. It's gigantic, and it's very like sort of Rider-Waite-Smith, but not exactly fully Rider-Waite-Smith. It's kind of its own thing. And these are just going to show you some of the artwork. I'm not going to show you all of them. And these are the backs, really cool looking backs. It's not quite a Minchiati, if you know what a Minchiati is, but it's almost like a Minchiati. There are zodiac cards in here, for instance, and it has planetary cards. So it's a very interesting deck. I haven't worked with it much, but I just really love it. It's beautiful, and I will plan on working with it eventually. And I have done some readings and so forth with it, but I haven't really studied it much. But just the aesthetic of it and the quality and everything was probably my top deck of 2020. So now that I made a liar out of myself and said I wasn't going to categorize anything, I'm going to show you some random decks, which are just kind of my favorites. So Tower of Result is by Ben Gross. This is the deck I got from Yves Renaud, and has this beautiful cover. He's a folk artist. He lives in France. He's English born. Yves Renaud is publishing his decks. They made 600. It's a tarot deck. It's modern, but it's based on the Jean-Pierre Payen. So it's sort of the Payen tarot, but he's added all these cool borders in here, and it is a Tarot de Marseille. So you're going to see a nice little mix here of different decks. They're not all going to be Rider-Waite-Smith or Marseille, because it's sort of a reflection on what I like in general, which is a little of everything, But I love his green borders, or his borders, and these ones happen to be green, but all of his borders, different colors. And I did a walkthrough of this. If you want to see the full deck, you can see it on my channel, but this is just one of my favorites, probably of all time, not just of last year, or this year, I should say, 2020. And I liked it so much, I actually bought his Majors Only deck, one of his Majors Only. He has a couple. And I bought an original piece of art from him, which is of the Hangman, which I've showed on my channel before. It's the Hangman from his Marseille Revisited. It's the original one. So another deck that I really, really liked, and there were a few, the Fails Arcana, or Fails Arcanae. I really like this. I just got it, and I just literally, maybe that's why it's one of my favorites, but I just got it, you know what I mean? It's new, but I really, really enjoy this. And I'm only doing decks that, to the best of my knowledge, have been published in 2020. So yeah, and it's a monochromatic deck. It's all sort of, you know, pen and ink kind of art, and it's all cats. And I just love this. First off, I love my cats. I love cats in general. I think they're a sacred animal. They're very smart and just really loyal animals, and I have a lot of respect for them. And so this deck kind of hits home for me. I don't have another tarot deck other than the Grimalkin second edition. These are the only two cat decks that I have, and I haven't even opened the Grimalkin yet, so I don't know how much I'm going to like it or not. But this one has just been phenomenal, and you can get this on Etsy. I did a walkthrough of this, so you can see it, and it has this beautiful gild. Love the backs. It's high quality. The card stock feels amazing. So unless you hate cats, I can't see how you would not like this deck, which is a strange thing for me because, you know, I'm not really big on like monochromatic decks, you know, colorless decks. But this one has just been really, really nice. So another deck I wanted to mention here, and I just got this one as well. Actually, a lot of these I just got. So is the Fantastic Menagerie. So Fantastic Menagerie is an older deck by Baba Studios. It didn't just come out, but the second edition did. So I think that's this. Is it the second edition? This edition did come out, and it's brand new to me, so I'm going to show it. And you know, one of my favorite decks of all time is the Mythical Creatures, quality-wise especially. I love it. And so these are based on an artist from like the Gilded Era, who did the Metamorphosis du Jour or whatever the book is. I forget his name. And like I said, I just got this. I haven't read the book yet. It does come with a companion book, but the art is beautiful. It's all story kind of art, like storybook type stuff. It's very fantasy. I love these blue backs. They're really, really nice. And the cold stamping, is just, it's so beautiful. It makes this deck really, really pretty. It's just, the quality is unmatched. These are really, really high quality decks, and they're worth every penny. And I'm a big fan of Baba Studio. There are a few decks that I really, really love of theirs that I don't have, that are on my list, such as like the Fairy Tale Tarot and so forth. But you know what? Like, I'm happy I have 3 decks of theirs now, and I know that I've heard some rumors that they're going to stop doing decks, and that's very sad to me. But I wish Karen Mahoney and the group, the whole Baba group, well in whatever they do. But I'm very sad to see them stop making decks. So that was one. The other deck I got from Baba Studio. Okay, so this wasn't technically a 2020 deck, but since I got them both together, since I brought up Baba, I'm going to show you. And this is the companion book. They have great companion books, Baba Studios. They're short and sweet, and they have a lot of information. They're well done. They're always high quality stuff. The other deck I got was the Tarot of Prague, which is an old deck. Love this deck. I never had any. I don't have the original copy. This is the premium size, and it's gigantic. But I love it. I got to tell you, I love this deck because, for one, I think the main purpose of this deck is going to be for me is active imagination type thing, path working, whatever they call it. Comes in a wooden box, and here's the cover card, Tarot of Prague, right? They were based in Prague at one time, and that's why it's called the Tarot of Prague. They moved since then. They moved to Killarney, Ireland, but I don't know if the original had cold stamping or not. I hope it did, but this does, and it's just so beautiful. First of all, look at these backs. I hope the camera can show like how pretty they are. And then the colors on these are just amazing, and they're so big and beautiful. It really, you stare into them, and I thought right away, I said, this is going to be something I want to sit with and do some path working with, because, and I definitely need to do more of that. I need to do more meditation in general. So, I think this is a perfect deck for me at this point, and it's so beautiful. I mean, I'm so happy just to have it for my collection. This is such a beautiful deck. You know what I mean? So, that Empress. It's amazing. So yeah, again, that's not a 2020 deck, but I figured since I brought up Baba Studios, I was going to show you. So back to 2020 now. Another deck I want to show you. Well, hold on, let me show you a deck that I just got. Now I think this was published in 2020. I'm not 100% sure if it came out in 2020. Yeah, 2020. Lo Scarabeo. It's the Soprafina deck, which I do have a version by, oh, I forget, it's Italian, Il Salone. I don't have the Il Meneghello, but I do have the Il Salone, and it was always one of my favorites. It's a smaller deck, but the colors in this are wonderful and has this box top. I'm starting to really like these decks, and I wish that I got the Tarot de Marseille one, which is now, I believe, out of print. And something I've noticed about Lo Scarabeo decks, when they go out of print, they become really valuable, especially the limited edition ones. So it wouldn't be bad to, like, as an investment, if you're a collector, to get one. And if you, especially if you like it and you want to work with it, definitely get it, because they only made a certain amount. The colors are wonderful. They're small. They're small, like probably half the size of a tarot, but they're long, you know, they're not like a typical mini. They have an interesting kind of, and the original was like this, you know, this is how the Il Salone is, but this is wonderful. And after I interviewed Cheryl Smith, I gifted her, and Cheryl told me that this may be her favorite version of this deck currently, and she has a lot of like different ones. You know, she's a big fan of, she loves the ancient Italian tarot, but sort of historic tarot is her thing. You know, she's a tarot historian, and she does a lot of writing for her blog and so forth. But she told me that this was her current favorite, and I liked it so much I sent it to her. So I was happy to get it. Yeah, and the backs are kind of cool. I think I might have showed you the backs, but just in case I didn't. So let's see, another deck I want to mention. And I probably showed more. I'm going to be showing probably like 6 or something. I don't know. I lost count. But this is considered as my top 5. It's just more than 5 because I'm not good with rules. I never follow the rules. Crystal Skull Tarot by Jessie Driscoll. I wanted to mention this because number one, I like Jessie. She's a friend of mine. But secondly, this is one of the most unique tarot decks that I've ever come across. It's different, you know, it's totally different than anything I have. I love Rachel's book. It's wonderful, you know, just reading Rachel's words and her interpretations of it. But Jessie kind of proved to me in this deck that you can make a tarot deck without actually drawing one, you know. And it's a very unique, it's a photographic deck. So, you know, you don't have to be a drawer or a painter or even a digital kind of artist to create a tarot deck that's meaningful. And the symbolism in this is all there, and it's interesting, and I feel like it's character building to work with this deck and so forth. Like it's, you know, it allows you to kind of work with the symbolism of the Rider-Waite-Smith a little more. You know what I mean? And because it's bare bones. You know what I mean? So I thought it was worth a mention because, you know, I thought it was sort of groundbreaking. You know, it was different than any other deck that have probably ever seen. So, and of course Jessie loves crystal skulls and so forth, and that's why she did it. So I wanted to give Jessie a little shout out and mention that with my 2020 decks. So I think the last deck I'm going to show you is a deck I just did a walkthrough of. So I'm not going to show you all the cards, but the Tarot of Oz. This was R.J. Tomlinson. I love this darn deck. It's so cool. First off, the box itself is worth being on my top 5, you know. And like I said, I'm not going to show you all of them, but it's a nice wooden box with a magnetic closure. And this is based on the book by Frank L. Baum. Not so much the movie, but as I said, I just showed you this, so I'm not going to show you all the cards, but there's Dorothy. These are the backs. It's got a really high quality gild to it. It's very, very high quality deck. And it's got a nice gloss. I actually love this. It's an old fashioned kind of like it reminded me of the Grimaud decks or something, but thicker. You know what I mean? It's got that kind of finish of like a classic tarot finish, which is what I kind of like. You know, you don't see that too much anymore. Sometimes I like a variety, and each deck is different. You know, sometimes you want super glossy, sometimes you want matte, and of course, you know, it depends on the day for me, what I'm in the mood for, and so forth. But yeah, so that is it. So that's my 2021 death year video, and my top 5 of 2020, which was more like top 6 or 7. I didn't even bother counting, but I appreciate you guys tuning in, and I wish you all a happy new year, and all the best in the new year. And let's hope that this whole COVID shit gets behind us, and 2021 is a better year than this year. So I'm hoping so. But anyway, I appreciate you tuning in, guys. Stay well and happy new year. Love and peace.